Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Navigating the Cybersecurity Job Market. My name is Mutan Meshak, and I head up diversity and inclusion at Tenable. I am thrilled to have here today our members of our talent acquisition team, Meg and Lamont. Before I turn it over to Meg and Lamont, I want to take a minute to level set on goals and objectives of this session. So, our objective for this session is multifaceted. First, we aim to provide comprehensive insights into Tenable's leadership in cyber threat management. Tenable has been at the forefront of identifying and mitigating cyber threats, and we're excited to share some of the ways we're leading in this critical field. Second, we'll highlight unique trends in the cybersecurity job market. As you all know, this field is dynamic and ever evolving, and understanding these trends is crucial for anyone looking to enter or advance in cybersecurity. And then lastly, we'll also share effective strategies for landing a job here at Tenable. We understand the competitive nature of this market, and we want to equip everyone on this call with the tools and knowledge to stand out. Additionally, we'll offer guidance on enhancing your candidate branding and visibility to capture our interest. Personal branding and professional visibility are two key components in differentiating yourselves in the job market, and we provide tips on how to do this effectively. At Tenable, our goal is pretty straightforward yet profound. We aim to arm every organization, no matter how large or small, with the visibility and insight needed to answer four critical questions at all times. First, where are we exposed? Second, where should we prioritize based on our risks? Third, are we reducing our exposure over time? And fourth, how do we compare to our peers? To achieve this, we offer a suite of robust products designed to cover every aspect of our cyber exposure and vulnerability management. Some of our products include cloud security, which ensures that your cloud environments are secure and compliant, vulnerability management, which involves identifying and prioritizing vulnerabilities to minimize risks, security center, which provides a centralized view of your security posture. OT security involves protecting operational technology environments. Identity exposure really focuses on safeguarding identity systems against breaches. Nessus, which most are familiar with, is the most widely deployed vulnerability assessment solution. Lumen focuses on delivering advanced insights and analytics for risk-based vulnerability. Our web app scanning product detects vulnerabilities in web applications. And lastly, our attack surface management focuses on managing and mitigating risk across your entire attack surfaces. To provide a more detailed understanding of our product offerings, I'm going to play this video, which showcases the capabilities of our Tenable One platform. This platform is really great because it integrates all these solutions that we offer to a unified, comprehensive approach to cyber exposure management.
This is Tenable One, a holistic exposure management platform to help you defend against the ever-expanding types of cyber threats. What does that even mean? Who understands all this stuff? We do. I mean, we're not know-it-alls, but do-it-alls. But we know a lot too. Tenable One helps you understand where you're most vulnerable by combining data from different sources into a unified, actionable, and easy-to-understand way. Other solutions address threat detection and incident response and help cybersecurity teams address issues when an attack is in progress. I don't know, that's cool, I guess. But why take this approach when you can prevent breaches from happening in the first place? Cooler. So, there's a need now more than ever for a single, unified view of the attack surface. Something that's robust and simple, like Tenable One. Now, come on, let's be real. The world is super connected, and new cyber risks need new ways of thinking and immediate reaction, like Log4j. Everyone remembers that, right? With Tenable One, it's more like Log forget about it. You see what we did there? No? Okay. This exposure management platform combines the broadest vulnerability coverage, spanning IT assets, cloud resources, containers, web apps, identity systems, and the list goes on and on and on. With Tenable One, organizations can now translate technical asset, vulnerability, and threat data into clear and actionable intelligence for security executives and practitioners. Evaluating all risks is a massive challenge, and traditional security technologies remain siloed and not able to see the whole picture. Imagine not seeing the whole picture when it's this important.
Yikes!
Attack pathways, exposure views, and asset inventory. These are the tentpole features that make up Tenable One. And an intuitive interface allows for easy monitoring of your cyber exposure score across your entire attack surface in real time. In real time. Yep, that's right, I said it twice. Oh, and you can also collaborate with security teams in built-in messaging, allowing you to work from anywhere. Preventing cyber attacks requires full visibility into all assets and exposures, and one do-it-all, know-it-all platform. This is Tenable One, exposure management for the modern attack surface.
Awesome. So I hope that video just shows and conveys how all of our products can kind of be integrated and utilized optimally so that we are mitigating risks on behalf of our stakeholders. So now with that being said, I'm going to
This is
turn it over
Tenable One, a holistic.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining. My name is Meg. I'm a principal recruiter here at Tenable. I primarily focus on the go-to-market hiring. Also, some of our corporate roles, which can include marketing, finance, legal, sales and training, and that can keep going on and on. Just to give you a little bit of a snapshot of the landscape currently in cybersecurity, the global cybersecurity industry is expected to grow to 270 billion by 2026. That is up from 2020, it was at 170 billion. So that's pretty significant. And it's going to require a corresponding increase in the hiring that's going to be difficult to achieve due to the hyper competitive market. In 2025, they're expecting there to be about 3.5 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs due to the lack of skilled professionals, the growing need to secure more systems. Cybersecurity is the main defense, the talent is the main defense in the rapid rise of online attacks that are increasingly more complex and more unpredictable. In 2023, there was a 72% climb in the number of data breaches globally. And along with the technical skills, it's important to remember the need to perfect the analytical and your communication skills as well to compete in this in-demand market. The cybersecurity skills gap refers to the constantly widening wedge between the demand for cybersecurity professionals and the true supply of qualified personnel. So the gap emerged for a lot of reasons, really due to the rapid technology advancements have outpaced the traditional education and training for filling a lot of these roles. Next slide, Muta. To give you an idea, I'm going to share with you some of the stuff that I focus on, and then Lamont focuses on the technical side of the house. As I mentioned, my main focus for North and South America is sales, our go-to-market, which can include our entry-level roles, inside sales roles, and then we move up to the outside sales, which we refer to as enterprise-level selling. And then the account management, also known as customer success managers, will work with renewals, account retention, day-to-day tasks of managing the accounts. Our sales engineers is a great role. This is a role that's kind of a hybrid between selling and your technical aspects. So they work on the pre-side sales along with the sales team, helping clients understand how our product is going to help their environment. We have our marketing roles, our human resources, legal, finance, sales enablement, which obviously is training, project and product management, and then our technical writing. And this list actually can go on and on, but this just gives you kind of an idea of the different jobs within cybersecurity that aren't so much on the technical side, but are still in great demand. And then I'll turn it over to Lamont.
Thanks, Meg. I'm Lamont. I am a recruiter here at Tenable. Been here for almost 10 years and been in the recruiting and recruitment marketing field now for about 25 years. And at Tenable, we have a host of different positions. As Meg mentioned, some of the positions that she recruits for, and then some of the positions that I recruit for. Most of the positions that I have recruited for historically and presently are fairly technical, usually on the engineering and R&D side. And there's also positions that we have over what we call risk and compliance in various areas. So I'll just kind of take you through a little bit of the list that you see here before you. If you have any questions, go ahead, drop them in the comments. We'll try to answer them towards the Q&A section. But I'll just go ahead and jump on in. So, tech support, and one thing I do want to mention is that there is a little bit of a difference between working for a product development company and a services company. If you have questions about that, I can go through that as well. But kind of going through the list here, you have roles such as tech support in the world of cybersecurity that can range from working on things such as our products, working with customers and how to use products like Nessus or Tenable SC, et cetera. You have typical your risk and compliance, information security analysts and engineers, and then you have software engineers. Is actually software engineers is one of the positions that I recruit for quite a bit because we are a product development company. We develop products for the security industry. And we have a small group that's dedicated towards services. So for us, as opposed to maybe a services company, we don't have a lot of people that actually are quote unquote doing the actual cybersecurity work. Now, on Meg's side, where she's hiring individuals such as sales engineers and also people who work in professional services, they do, I guess you can say per se, doing the actual type of uh, cybersecurity work. But then just kind of going through the rest of the list here, you have malware analysts, reverse engineers, DevSecOps, which is an area that's proliferating more and more, cloud security, applications security engineers, and then machine learning security engineers. And I try to put these in order of I don't necessarily say ranking, but we can say maybe specificity as far as the supply and demand of these roles. So with that, Munich, you would move on to the next slide. So crafting a resume. This is a one that I'm very, very passionate about when it comes to resume writing and interviewing. There's a lot of different ways you could write a resume. I know that's one of the questions that maybe someone's gonna ask is, one-page resume versus multi-page. So to get that out the way, it depends. It really just depends. For example, if you're attending an event, I recommend p making a one-page resume. And making a one-page resume effectively, it can be challenging because there's a way that you wanna create your resume for a one page to highlight your achievements, highlight the benefits as opposed to the features that I'll cover here also, but it will depend. I think Meg and I kind of both agree that one page is great, two pages okay. For example, both of us have 20 plus years of experience. It's probably going to be a little bit difficult for us to put all of our experience on one page. So 2 pages is fine. Three, yeah, they start to get yeah, prefer maybe not to have three. So one of the kind of hacks that I always tell individuals now is to use a LLM such as ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, etc., and to, to put your information in there to help you write better resumes. So one really easy and quick prompt that you can use to see if you actually match a job, and I have that prompt right here. It says give a rough percentage of how close this resume matches to the job. Exclude soft skills if soft skills are not included. And if you're using ChatGPT, and I think now 4.0 is actually a free version, it will provide you with a nice printout of the metrics of how well your resume matches percentage-wise. It'll say, 10% match, 30%, 40% match. It also will itemize your skills. So, for example, if you have Java, it will say you have your 30, 40% match with Java. So that's a really good way that you can see how well your resume that you have matches the actual role. Now, going back to the resume a little bit, the resume is also not a sum total of who you are. It's a very quick snapshot of your past and current performance to potentially predict your performance on the job and in the future. So, once again, it's just a snapshot. One thing that I always recommend as well is to create the narrative for your career progression before you even get started on your resume, or if you already have a resume, kind of go back and write down the career narratives of what have happened over the years. What projects were you involved in? What were the successes? What were the failures? What were the things that you learned? Write all of that down, just maybe in a separate document, and you can then use that information in your resume. You can actually tell Chat GPT to or Gemini or Claude to integrate those into your resume effectively, but make it benefit rich. And so let's kind of jump on into benefits and features. So I would say that we can go back one. Um, I would say 95% of the resumes that I receive, because I'm mainly on the engineering, R&D, tech side, that it's probably higher than 96% of the resume I receive are feature-rich resumes as opposed to benefits. And let me just give you a quick example. The resume might say, use Java to create dashboard for X. Okay, that's great, but it doesn't really provide, well, what was the benefit? What was what did you improve? Did you organize? Did you reduce something? So, an example would be, reduce latency by 15% by migrating code from PHP to Golang. That is something that's verifiable. You can see that there's a number attached to it. Now, I know that you don't necessarily always are going to be able to do that, but always try to make your bullets uh, rich in benefits as opposed to features. And you can also, if you write down your career narrative, your progression over the years, you can put that into ChatGPT and say, "Help me to rearrange this to where this resume is now a benefit rich resume." Here's another little prompt that you can use with ChatGPT, and actually, I'm also going to send you out. I created my own GPT that already has this already built into it, so you can just go there, drop in your resume, drop in the job description, hit the button, and it's going to spit out the information so that you don't even have to put in these prompts. So this prompt is, what percentage of the resume bullets are job features versus benefits, and it will provide you with a nice percentage of your overall resume. Is it a 40%, 50, 60% feature versus benefits? You wanna try to aim for 50% or more. The higher, the better. So, we can go to the next slide, Muda. And here's just a little quick example, and snapshot that I took of the output from the first and from the second prompt. So the first one, it just says right here, considering the technical requirements, excluding soft skill, the resume of the candidate appears to be a strong match for the position, meeting 85 to 90% of the key requirements. That's nice for you to know, because technically most of the times you don't know if you're a good match for that job description or not. There's also a few quirks about it, but no, I'll we can go through that a little bit later. Second one is the second prompt, and we'll just drop right on down to the bottom where it says summary. The resume consists of approximately 96% job features versus 4%. So you can see right here, this is a very feature-rich resume. We want to get that up to at least 50% or more. You can put in a prompt to say, okay, um, let's change this to a benefits-rich resume. Help me to provide actionable benefits in this resume. A very simple technique I call is PAR, P-A-R. I think it's also known as XYZ. It's problem, action, results, and you can state your problem, the action you took, and the result from that action that you took. You can also reverse it around. You can do the result first, then do the action, and then state the problem. And problems aren't necessarily always problems. It could be you reorganize something, you could have recreated something. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a problem per se. It could be a situation as well. Okay, let's say, can we move on to the next one?
Great. Thanks, Lamont. One of the best ways to optimize your brand is LinkedIn. And some of these examples and different ideas I can give you are relatively simple things that you can do. And I can say as a recruiter, we use LinkedIn all the time. We do always, when I get a resume, I'll look on LinkedIn. So make sure your profile is complete. Very important. More times than not, sometimes if I do go to the LinkedIn, it's not complete, or it's nice to put sometimes a face with the resume. So I do advocate for that. And also, a neat feature in LinkedIn is letting recruiters know that you're open to opportunities. And the functionality actually will allow recruiters to see that you're open, but not obvious to everyone in your network. If, for example, you're working and you want to be known as someone who's open to having conversations, and also be searchable. Um, Another, fact about LinkedIn I tell people is don't be afraid to connect with people that you don't know. If you're looking, to get into cybersecurity, looking for, it could be executives, it could be frontline managers, but connecting with people within the industry that you're looking for, it's expanding your network on LinkedIn. It's, sometimes you can message people if they're open to, having a quick conversation, or it really is an easy way to get more exposure on LinkedIn. Sharing content is another great way. Asking for endorsements. It could be a prior manager, it could be a prior colleague. And again, sometimes it's not so much the hard skills. A lot of times we're looking at soft skills as well. Tenable is big on, for example, for our company, culture fit, teamwork, creativity. So there's a lot of things that do play into it that you can really enhance on LinkedIn. And this is my personal favorite, is don't be afraid to reach out to the recruiter. In this market, we are getting a lot of resumes, especially if we're looking at entry level roles versus very specific roles. And I can tell you more times than not, if someone goes out of their way and literally sends me a message on LinkedIn like, hey, I saw you're hiring for this job, I guarantee you I'm probably going to respond. And it's another way to show, more interest, more fortitude that you took the extra step. Sometimes it might not be the right recruiter, but if it's for Lamont or anyone else on our team, I will share their information so that you can reach out to them directly. So that's a great way. So I definitely advise people to utilize LinkedIn to its full potential. And next slide. This is just a snapshot from our career site of different opportunities that we offer here at Tenable that kind of already covered, probably left out a few research. So I definitely encourage people to go to our website, take a look at our careers page. There are some great videos and different positions that we're hiring for. And this, I gave an example of what a typical interview process could look like. This, again, will vary very much depending on the role. We always start out with the recruiter interview. We're going to do the initial screen. Typically, it's going to be a 30-minute call, a quick overview of your background, kind of finding out if it's a good match. Then we move forward to the hiring manager. The hiring manager will obviously take a deeper dive depending on the role. If it's, in my world, sales, talking about different quotas that you might have had, territories, different wins. Obviously, Lamont's role will probably take a deeper dive into the technical side of the house. And next, a lot of times we like to have you meet with a few members of our team. And it's a great opportunity too for the person to, ask what a day in the life is of the role that you're interviewing for. So it's a different perspective, a different line of questions that you would ask. Again, this is going to vary from job to job. And then the final step, a lot of times, on the sales side, we'll have a leader on the phone. And that's kind of a high level conversation as well. That's going to go over, obviously the vision of Tenable, long term, of what the company's looking for. So it's a good chance to usually get a chance to talk to one of our leaders here at Tenable. And some of these questions, the next line of questioning, it might seem elementary almost, but I can tell you the best practices in interviewing always go back to the fundamentals. One of my first questions is, how did you hear about this position? Or what do you know about Tenable? And that's me trying to find out, if you did your homework, maybe you know people at Tenable. Obviously, if you're looking to break into cybersecurity, just depending on the situation. I can tell you more times than not, and it happened the other morning where someone's like, oh, I don't know, tell me about your company, which is really never a good way to usually kick off the interview process. So do your homework. I'll always ask, tell me about yourself. I say be prepared to summarize your background, probably in about a minute, just to kind of give a quick overview. And again, back to the why do you want to work for Tenable? Sometimes I put that in the front end of the conversation. And one of the questions I do like to ask is, how would a former colleague describe you? And this, sometimes it takes a moment to pause. It's a self-awareness of, how am I to work with? What would my team members say? What would my manager say? So that's a great opportunity to describe that. I will ask a lot of times interest outside of work. Sometimes, it's an icebreaker. It gives a person a chance to talk about themselves, but also it shows a little bit about what people like to do, what drives them, especially when I'm hiring for sales. We do look for people, that sports is a great background. Obviously, when I'm looking for, is sometimes competitiveness. Not always the case, but a lot of times it does help. And then how do you deal with pressure? How do you deal with stressful situations? This is cybersecurity. So being agile, we change quick, we move fast. So someone who can adapt is important. And I like to ask, what are your salary expectations? I'm not asking you how much you're making. I always ask, what are your expectations? Just to find out if we're in line moving forward. Sometimes if I'm here and you're over here, for the role that we're talking about, unfortunately, it just might not make sense. I just, kind of like to get an idea. And are you applying for other jobs? So it's good to see, whether we're talking to somebody who's working or somebody who's been recently laid off or looking to transition their career, just to show, what effort are you putting in? What type of jobs are you, interviewing for? So, if you're talking to me about a sales role, but you're also interviewing for a DevOps role. They would be very different roles. So, that would lead to the question of, what type of career path are you looking for? What are you looking for in the long run? Also, things to consider, and these things, again, may come across as elementary, but arriving early to the interview, especially if it's a Zoom interview, be prepared, check your connections, make sure you're ready for the interview, dress appropriately. Even for a Zoom interview, it's always the first impression, but, simple things like that, making eye contact, smiling, just showing, your authenticity, your personality, let that shine through. So I'm a huge advocate of being yourself, obviously having your interview hat on, but also letting, sometimes again, we're looking at soft skills, we're looking at culture fit, we're looking to see who the person is. Remain positive about your past employers. I can say, you know, obviously more times than not, if it was a bad circumstance or a bad issue, because we will walk through why, different career transitions. I always ask that, try to have a positive spin. There have been in tech specifically a lot of layoffs, right? But it's important that, you try to have, a little bit of a positive. What did you take from your last job? Um, Again, preparation, research the company that you're interviewing for. Be thorough in your responses, be concise in your wording. Um, have questions. I think Lamont will probably expound on that, but questions are very important. I can tell you, when we end the interview, I'll always say, what questions do you have? And if someone doesn't have questions, that's sometimes a red flag. And I would say throughout the whole entire interview process, always have questions prepared for the folks that are interviewing you, and then follow up. I have I'm a stickler. Like, I like thank you letters or a simple email thanking each person that's interviewed you. It's a chance for you to also snapshot what you took from the interview. What skills you have that match what you both spoke about. You're almost kind of in a short couple sentences reiterating everything from the interview, but it's again showing interest. And then Lamont, I'll let you add to that. I know I went through everything.
Yeah, so one of the things I do talk about are questions, and Meg pointed out of that, and it's very important because especially as depending upon the level or the type of role that you are looking for, if you're going into, let's say, one of my customer success, it's important that you ask questions in your role. So if you're not asking questions at each point and iteration of the interview process, it might raise a red flag as, is this person going to be someone that can work in an environment where questions are very, very important? Same thing applies to engineering, support, and other roles. Almost any role, you need to be able to ask questions, and those are being able to ask questions are little small little windows into your overall potential personality. So definitely ask questions. Have the questions that you want to ask before you come onto the call with the recruiter, with the managers, with if you're whomever is in the interview process. Have questions at each and every touch point during that process. And also, as Meg mentioned, do a little bit of research beforehand it's a two-way interview process. You are interviewing us, we're interviewing you. You wanna make sure that this is the right opportunity for you, and you don't wanna work in an environment that is not gonna be conducive to your overall personality. Maybe your personality might be a little bit laid back and the team environment is just a little bit off. So you want to make sure, like I said, you're interviewing us as well. So have those questions ready for the team and whomever that you're interviewing with along the interview process. Also, and this kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier in the resume, have make sure you have the narrative of your career progression nailed down. You should go through it, repeat it over and over again to where you can literally almost do it in your sleep. And I do mean that it's might sound figurative, but it's almost quite literal. Ask ask yourself questions about the roles that you've been in before, and it's a little bit of a parrot of what I said previously, but what were the challenges? What were the things that you did well? What was there a team environment? How many people were on the team? What were the things that you were able to get done? Why weren't you able to get certain things? Answering all of those questions in each and every role that you've been in are it's just going to help when you are hit with the question sometimes, "Tell me about yourself," that question. A lot of times people are like, "Oh, oh, well, if you already have that narrative of your life, um, already written out, then you're going to and it's already memorized, you're going to be able to very fluently talk about it, and not just from a robotic, "I was this and it," but it's gonna be it's impromptu, but at the same time, it's a little bit extemporaneous where you can ad lib and things in as you develop that narrative better and better over time. So, well, hopefully, you're not interviewing all the time as well, but it's definitely going to help along the way. And if you
Absolutely.
have a question, I'm sorry, if you have I see a couple questions here, but if there's more questions, please feel free to add them.
And I think the more you interview, the more you evolve, right, with the narrative, and sometimes it can change even, for what you thought was the narrative, and, as you learn more about roles is what I would go with. Um, let's see, I was looking at some of the questions. One of the questions earlier was, which roles are most high in demand? I saw that question come through earlier. Lamont, I might let you expand on that from a technical perspective.
Yeah, from a tech perspective right now, once again, I we are a product development company, as opposed to a services company. A services organization is going to have a very different priority of roles than a product development company. So most positions, if you were to ask me, high priority, what I do, it's gonna be software engineering, site reliability engineering. That's those are always individual positions that are in high demand, and even more so when you get down into the specificity of, okay, it's software engineer, but what type? Well, software engineer for a back-end microservices design. That's that's are the type of positions that I'm usually hiring for. Well, once again, we are we're a product development company. You go to a services company, they might need cybersecurity analysts, risk and compliance analysts, and all different types of more, we'll say, hands-on individuals or operational. Let me clarify, operational, as opposed to technical. So for for me in the little world that I'm in the engineering and R&D field, it's software engineers.
Yeah. And I think from the sales perspective, it is hard, like, at the enterprise level, typically, having X amount of years in at least the SaaS space is important. So I say when, people are transitioning in, like, we've created the sales development role, which is an entry level role, but it is a foot in the door to learn the products, the flow, and then from there, you know, and we do get a high demand of resumes. It will kind of dictate if you decide you want to go up, the true sales, hunting, cold calling, or the customer success, which would be more in line with the account management and focusing on retention and renewals, which again, that works directly with the clients. So usually people will find one of two paths, but I do find that, if you're looking to transition, from a different industry, from a sales perspective, sometimes I'm not saying you have to take a step back, but coming into a different industry, learning, our product, the sales cycle, the offerings does take a little bit of time. So sometimes, being more open to maybe a commercial rep versus an enterprise rep, for example. But I would say, the sales roles, especially coming in at the mid level, are pretty high demand.
There's another question that says, "Why are you applying for other jobs even a question?" So I went and I read through, so I don't have to read all of the information. So for me, one of the reasons why I might ask that question, and it's mainly for me to understand how the prioritization of how fast I need to move. For example, if I just spoke with someone last Thursday and asked that question. He said, "Yeah, well, I'm in the third round of interviews. I'm probably going to get an offer next week." Okay, well then I need to make sure that we move really quickly in order to get this person through the process because I thought the person was a pretty good fit for the role. So for me, that's one of the main reasons why I'm asking is to understand where they are in their potential interview process, or are they in an interview process or anywhere in a hiring stage with any company at all? Because then that's going to help me to understand. Okay, well, this person's not really looking at this time. That's good. We have a little bit more time. We can maybe talk to this person more in depth. So for me, it's a matter of speed, and also sometimes it's a matter of motivation. What's your current motivation for looking at new opportunities? So that's kind of a question I might ask as well. I hope that answered your question. If not, or if you have additional on top of that, I think it's Andrea. Just let me know.
Lamont, I think you have one more about from David.
Okay, well, I'm looking to transition from field technician to cybersecurity, most likely an analyst. I'm going to college for IT degree. What three certificates? So on the certificate, and I'll say this, and obviously, experience typically trumps uh, certificates. Or so, first and foremost, if you're able to get any type of experience related to those roles, get that experience. The certificates are going to, are helpful, but I wouldn't rely so much on those. They're definitely helpful, especially if you're in the beginning of your career. It's going to help bolster the resume, help bolster your overall positioning as a potential cybersecurity analyst. But any way that you are able to get experience, internship at a lower pay, maybe someone else is making double what you could get the experience first, as opposed to not as opposed, but let's say concurrently with certificate. Always, in my opinion, put experience above certificates. Degrees, they're definitely important in this field, especially as you get up the ladder and depending upon what area that you're going into. If you're getting into, and I keep, unfortunately, I have a 90% of my roles are engineering, so you'll hear me talk about engineering a lot. It's in by no way means that there's not roles out there in the true cybersecurity roles. But, as you get into different areas of engineering, yeah, the degree will help because typically might need a hard sciences degree, computer science, computer engineering, double E, in order to fulfill some of those roles. But, I hope that answered your question, David.
What is a risk and compliance analyst at Tenable?
Risk and compliance, well, for us at Tenable, what they are responsible for is analyzing, like, I've unfortunately gotten letters from our risk and compliance office because I'm, Mr. Technical. So let's say there's a new application that I like using, something that's gonna automate my job. Well, I need to send that to risk and compliance so they can evaluate to see, well, where are the vulnerabilities in this that potentially might expose us or our customer data to this particular to this particular customer. Are there any is there any deficiencies in their APIs? Is there so that's what they are mainly responsible for. They are responsible for assessing the risk and compliance of new applications that are coming into the department. Now, that's from an internal perspective. When our risk and compliance is all internal, because we aren't a services organization. You might go to a Booz Allen in Hamilton where they might need hundreds and hundreds of risk and compliance officers or people for a particular contract that they're working on. So I hope that clarifies, Samuel, what you were looking for.
I'll look at Mark's question about explaining why you want to leave a toxic work environment. So again, I say be positive. Sometimes a good way to put that is it's not a good culture fit, for example. And it's okay to say that you're leaving due to, again, a lot of times, depending on the company, if it's a company within tech, more times than not, I've talked to people from that company and I might know what's going on anyway. But I would definitely say, when I say don't be negative, depending on how many jobs, but if it is one job saying, it's not a culture fit, and sometimes, yes, being honest, but also find positive takeaways from that role, right? I learned this, or, I was able to do this. It's nice to still add positive, but there are going to be situations where, yeah, you could be working in an environment that's toxic. You could have a manager, it just might not be a fit. And there are ways to obviously say that without being over the top negative, right? So I say be honest, but also find positives, if that makes sense. I think, Lamont, you probably agree.
Absolutely.
What we see though is if it's somebody who's gone through several jobs, 1 year, 2 year, 1 year, and it's all negative, and that will tell a story, right? So we'll start to unveil a story of there had to be some positive. So that's when we say try not to be too negative. We like to see the transitions, but if it's all negative experiences, that can be a red flag too, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do get those, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Let's see. I see LaRon. It says, is Tenable open to hiring an employee from outside the United States? I'm in the Bahamas and require work visa sponsorship to fill a position. Oh, yeah, we do in certain instances. Usually it's typically for roles that are uh, very hard to fill. For example, I do have a position where there's a, there's a very finite people, I would say, across the whole US that have this skill. So I had to go outside, not outside the US, but I did hire someone with the work visa. Do we go outside of the US? We have actually, yeah, I think Meg, you have positions that are outside of the US. Um, but you don't need visas because you're actually hiring them in that location. That
Yep.
correct? So, I mean, we have locations in what, Singapore, Australia, Israel,
Yep.
multiple locations. And typically, if we're going to hire someone, we're going to hire their, from what I
In
know, in that location. Yeah,
I think maybe if he's wondering if to relocate to the US.
to relocate. Yeah, it's. I haven't since I've been here almost 10 years, and I've never hired anyone to relocate from another country to here. So that's just Tenable. Now, there's plenty of companies out there that do. We just haven't since I've been here.
Um, how do we go about knowing the salary expectation? I think, well, you can do research too. There's a couple ways to go about that question, of knowing when you ask the question, what are your salary expectations? Definitely, obviously doing your homework. You can look up, what is if you live in Denver, Colorado, or San Francisco, California, what is the pay range for a customer success manager? I'll just keep using that. And you can get an idea. Again, it really depends too. If you're looking truly to transition into a different industry, I think doing your homework on the ranges so you know what to expect. We do post our ranges on our postings now. So you do get a good idea of what the range is. Um, Again, if you're coming from, a transition where it's a totally different comp, I would just say do a little bit of homework, Google your area, look at the expectations, look at our posting, look at the range of the role, and if that's in line with where you would expect to be. So, what we don't want to do is start going through the interview process and all of a sudden your expectation is, egregiously higher than what the role's paying, right? So that can, it's never a waste of time, but it's good to know up front that we're in line moving forward. versus getting to the end in the offer stage and having it not be a match. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's never good. We both have been there before. That's something you
Yeah.
don't wanna do. It's just
Um,
a bad experience all the way around.
yeah.
So this one, I think this for me, it says a month ago, I graduated from a general non-STEM major. This is, oh, that's no name. With receiving my security plus C certification, I'm currently working on a CCNA network certification and a few cybersecurity projects, but I'm also considering a master's in cybersecurity. I've been applying to technical support and help desk positions, but I want to increase my chances of landing an entry level position in cybersecurity. What would you advise for your future path given the difficult market? Okay, I'm just going to be very frank with you. Here's what I see. About 12 or 13, no, it's probably more than that, maybe 13 or 14 years ago, I was at a network security company, and previously I had been doing all classified, highly classified work, and this company was in their name, it said network security, and he had been preaching to the individuals in his company that had tech support, help desk, and network security background. He said, "You need to start to learn the program. You need to start to learn." I didn't understand why he was saying that. Well, I do now, very few years later, because the industry shifted. Not everything, but a good portion of everything is moving to cloud. With that, you have new skills and new technologies. I always recommend anyone in the network security field to learn Python. You it is you're going to need scripting experience at some point. I would say learn programming. So even at an entry level role, help desk, tech support. I know you say you're going for your master's. Um, anyone, if it was to be my children, if they were to tell me this, I would say, okay, this is what you need to do. First, you need to learn Python. You need to learn, um, preferably cloud things of cloud security. So you need to learn a particular cloud platform. My recommendation would be AWS. It is the 500-pound gorilla out there. Yes, you have Azure. Yes, you have GCP. Azure is still the hard drive of the internet, as they say sometimes. So my personal anecdotal recommendation for my little Lamont world is, uh, yes, certifications are great. Once again, as I mentioned earlier, experience, experience, experience. Even if you have to do something that's maybe underpaid, because you're going to be able to get that experience. If you have 6 months of experience at a lower paying role, and someone has 0% zero experience, but they may have all the technical certifications and even degree to match, I would say generally, I use that word generally very sparingly, that you're probably gonna go with the person that has the experience over the certification. So, you have to differentiate yourself somehow. Especially at the entry level where, I mean, even some of my roles that are more technical in nature, in the past, I might have had 20 or 30 resumes. Now I'm getting 200, 300 resumes because of the job market. So, a thing I didn't get into is marketing and differentiation, understanding yourself. You are a marketer, you are a brand. How do you separate yourself and position yourself from the others? Meg gave you guys an amazing hack. I don't even want to say it again, to be honest, but when she said, you know, going directly to the recruiter, that's a big hack. That's a big hack. I mean, someone reached out to me the other day, and they were asking me for about a position, and I looked at it and I said, "Oh, that's Meg." So I sent them over to Meg. That's gonna automatically put you so much further up as long as you're qualified, because there's a lot of people that, and I'm being fair, using a lot of hyperbole here. You know, they're a milk truck driver, and they're applying to a cybersecurity analyst position. If you match up and you've done the homework and some of the things that I've mentioned before in your resume, and you can position yourself when you do get to the Meg, or Meg refers you to me, and I'm looking at the resume and say, okay, this person looks like a decent match, to pick up the phone and we call them. Now I know that was a little bit verbose in the answer, so I do apologize, but I hope that I was able to give you some amount of information that might be helpful in this difficult market.
It also plays into building your network too. I do get at the enterprise level in sales, some folks will connect with some of our leaders in sales, and
Mhm.
they'll ping them, that'll ping me, and it is like a ping pong ball. Like it will circulate. So again, some people think of LinkedIn like Facebook, but it is definitely not. It is definitely a place where you can grow your network, and a lot of times it circulates back to us, even if you've connected with one of our sales leaders or whatever department it is, and expressed your interest. I more times than not, probably a couple times a month, I get a ping from one of our leaders that said, "Hey, this person looks good. They reached out to me."
Yep.
And when we are getting 2 to 300 applicants per role, it really, guess what? When I get an email like that, I'm gonna look at it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. It is.
Yeah.
And and this may be the same person, but you said scripting, programming, networking, Linux administration. Yeah, those are cloud. That's very important. AWS. Like I said, my my personal preference, if I were providing some type of career development to someone, I would recommend AWS. Scripting, when I say, and when I am very specific with scripting, it is Python. Yes, you'll probably need PowerShell, you'll probably need Bash, but it's Python above PowerShell and Bash when it comes to that. Um, because you can't really create a whole lot of applications per se using Bash. I mean, you can. Anyways, I don't want to go into deep of that. But yeah, just add in cloud security or cloud, specifically AWS, and that's would definitely be the recommendation. I saw someone else had a question about
There was a
business.
question about internships.
Okay, Annabelle, what type of internship does Tenable offer as a college student seeking business cybersecurity degree? Um, mo m Most of our positions, and once again, Annabelle, this goes back to, we're a product development company, and now, Meg, you'll please correct me if I'm wrong on this. I know most of the internships, and I was involved with the internship program this year. A large number of the internships on our side were software engineers, that we did. As far as business cybersecurity degree, we might be applicable to risk and compliance, and typically they're gonna have just one person that they're gonna bring on because that's an enterprise internal support. When I support product, which is the product of Tenable One, our on-prem product, so there's a lot more potential opportunities, and we hire a lot more internship. Now, Meg, you might hire that might be applicable for something you have, maybe.
I mean, yeah, it depends, from like the entry level sales, obviously we hire an intern. Usually they're at our HQ in Maryland, so they're there right now. We have a pretty big internship program this year. Um, and it could be, again, it could be marketing. So
Mhm.
I'd have to look at the complete list. We have someone in HR.
Yeah.
So, you know, in different years are bigger than other years. And we do this on a global basis, from where our offices are. So it is great. It's a great way in, obviously. But it's, yeah, usually like we have, I think, one SDR. Um, so it just depends. And again, it depends on what pathway you're looking to take. So I'm a big advocate of, obviously the internships, whether it's with Tenable or a different company, right?
Mhm.
And whether it's tech or sales, the internships are critical too.
Yeah. One thing I don't think I touched on a lot also is uh, networking and understanding what area of cybersecurity. There's so many when you say cybersecurity or even cybersecurity analysts, that could mean a plethora of different things. So, what is it that you are most passionate about? Playing around with things on your own. Those are that's very important to take a lot of initiative and motivation to find out what is it that you like to do, what little small areas, and if you can do that on your own, then maybe that can help in for a little bit of where you'd like to go because, like Meg said, business cybersecurity, well, you can do marketing, you can do customer success, you can do multiple areas within an organization.
Yeah. It is a very broad industry, and a lot of times when I get on a call with somebody, I'm like, oh, they're like, I'll say, why do you want to work in cyber? So I am kind of looking for a compelling reason. They're like, oh, it's cyber. Like, we look for a little bit more substance sometimes, because it is a broad industry, and sometimes people don't realize, all these different companies do different things, right? So so a lot of times I'm just looking at if someone's, done some research, gotten more granular in what they're looking for.
I think I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come back to you, Cindy. I see yours. I'm gonna just quickly, David. You had mentioned when you say get experience in an internship, value the same. Yeah, I would say that. Well, I mean, internships are usually shorter, so if you've worked at a job for 1 year as opposed to 3 months, of course, the 1 year is going to be valued a little bit more. But yeah, we look when I'm looking at someone who maybe has a couple years of experience, that couple of years is added into their internships as well. So yeah, the value of it is the same. Now, the experience that you've had over that time, that's obviously going to be weighted. 1 year is more than 6 months or 3 months rather. And then the thing, Cindy, you said, do you have any recommendations if I can only get into technology internal audit in the trust and safety field, but the ultimate goal is cybersecurity, privacy, GRC? Yeah. So recommendations to get into technology internal. Now, that is an area I'm gonna stick my foot in my mouth that you do want certifications in. I don't do a lot in that area. It's about a couple times a year in our InfoSec group, but generally they are looking for certifications for that. So, for you, Cindy, kind of wipe everything out. I kind of partially said in the past. Yeah, that's typically one of the roles that, yeah. And the reason, here's the reason why, is because those roles revolve around compliancy risk and those type of things. And it also usually has especially in this Maryland, DC, Virginia area, you can't throw a feather without hitting 500 government contractors. And we are technically a government contractor as well. We sell to the government. As soon as you sell the government one pencil, you're technically a government contractor. Therefore, the government usually has these stipulations. Oh, you must have, I'm just throwing out example, this CISSP, you must have. So a lot of times, even oh, for a lot of roles in this area, v- because there's such a large government contracting presence, and because that type of role is very prevalent in the government contracting world out here, they're going to require certification. So those are some of the roles that I do recommend that you get the GRC certifications and any others that might be applicable for that as well. Not saying once again that you get that and boom, your recruiters and managers are knocking at your door, but it's definitely going to help a little more than, let's say, other industries that I may have talked about before. So that's something I definitely recommend.
All right. I think we've rolled through them all.
Awesome, awesome. Again, thank you both so much, Meg and Lamont, for taking the time, and thank everyone on this call for expressing interest in joining. Super excited, and the recording will be available. And if any of you have any other questions, feel free to connect with either myself, Meg, or Lamont via LinkedIn, and we're always happy to stay in touch.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.